I'm Arvind Gupta, President CEO, Jesta I.S. And today, I'm really excited to have our guest here who will be talking about turning disruption, incredible disruption that we have seen in the last multiple years, in particular retail. And I'm not talking about just supply chain disruption. So today, these guests will share their insights about how their businesses, their banners, have taken the disruption, leveraged some strategies, and how they converted those disruptions, believe it or not, into opportunities. So please settle down. Hopefully you will walk away with some good strategies from their insights that you could actually use, take home, and apply into your own businesses. But before that, a little bit about me, Jesta I.S. We have been 50 years in business, building out verticalized, dedicated, foundational systems for retail, fashion, wholesale, apparel, and branded goods industries. In fact, we were the only first ones who came up with purpose-built, verticalized ERP for your industry. Now, the entire solution that we offer is basically allows you to navigate end-to-end journey from your product conceptualization, if you're in a business to lay down your own product line, all the way to the delivery to the customer, all the way to the last mile. This vision suite has grown actually exponentially, all organically, ultimately founded under the foundation, with the foundational ERP, surrounded by very advanced analytics, order management, digitization platform, and ultimately having very, let's call it elaborate end-to-end mobile connect platform for the associates as well as the consumers. Quick introduction to the guests here. On my left, if you read from right to left, is Rodgers, CIO, EVP at Designer Brands, previously known as DSW. Most of you perhaps know DSW. They are the largest, or one of the largest, designers, producers, and retailers for apparel and footwear in North America. Their main banner, DSW Designer Shoes, is their store I'm sure you've gone into. Actually, next to him is Steve Jackson, CIO, SVP, Harry Rosen. Now, not too many of you perhaps know Harry Rosen. Harry Rosen is 75 years in business in Canada. They have been actually destination for more than 40% men's high-end clothing in entire Canada. And they were consistently rated as top 100 businesses to work for, best run organizations in Canada. Then we have Mr. David Lee, CIO and head of IT organization at Careismatic brand. Now, if you do not know Careismatic brand, you probably have used their product in some way or other, have seen their product being used. They are the largest clinical medical clothing and accessories, school uniforms in North America. They have a variety of dozens and dozens of brands, but among the biggest brands are Cherokee uniform. They also have some other, as you see there is the, I was going to think a second brand, and I'm not seeing that here, Dickies Medical. You may have seen that. So those are some of the largest brands. Welcome again to this panel, gentlemen. Now, we know the disruption perfect storm. Candidly speaking, we saw Y2K, we saw 2008. But in the 25 years I've been in this space, I think all those storms kind of pale in comparison to what ensued at the beginning of 2019 with the pandemic, which led to insane amount of disruption in supply chain, leading to no inventory, and then having too much inventory, and with the war breaking out, leading to incredible inflation and ultimately consumer deflation. Everything you can think of is basically conjoined together to create disruption that we are still smarting over, candidly speaking. Fortunately, a lot of businesses, and especially the guests we have here, their businesses not only survived, they actually thrived. They actually used this disruption as a template to take things to a whole other level. So we'll hear their thoughts. Today, we're going to exclusively talk about retail disruption. And in retail disruption, it's always about product, place, and ultimately getting it to the customer. So that disruption is here. Question is how that disruption is playing it out. So first, I'll pass it on to Ervan. Ervan, we have seen all these challenges, your business and all the other retail industry. So can you please think out loud, how has your brand coped with that disruption and ultimately responded to all the challenges that we have seen in last multiple years and even still seeing as we're coming out of pandemic?
Thank you. Thank you for having us. It's a wonderful question and something that one might need to make sure is a part of their strategic vision go forward. It's all about having a balanced scorecard. As we looked at the pandemic and as we prepared, we wanted to make sure that we were ready on coming out of the pandemic. And so we doubled down on our strategy. We put our CBS customer brand and speed and non-pillar types of foundational projects to bear. It's all about evolving and growing. Customer, it's all about, we want every one of our customers to be our best friends. So we want to know what you need before you need it so we can suggest that product, making sure that we have a 360-degree view about our customer. From a brand perspective, we want to double our own brands while maintaining our national brands. And so you may have seen that we've acquired Topo. It's an athletic brand, really technical brand for runners. We also just recently acquired Le Tigre. So that's a brand that we're going to revive that was generated right here in the New York area, right? So again, doubling our own brands while maintaining our national brands. It's all about making sure that you can control your destiny on both ends, wholesale and retail. With regards to speed, it's all about getting the product to the customer cheaper, faster. They want to know where their product is. Most of the calls that come in is, where's my product? And so if you can get that product to them, with speed, accuracy, you're going to create a customer for life. I hope that all of you are customers and you've got on the latest and greatest kicks. I am up to about 135, 140 pairs of shoes. Since I have joined DSW, my wife is looking at me like I have a secondary head because it was not my style prior to that. At the same token, technology drives innovation. Innovation is at the pure essence of how you continue to change and evolve your business. So we have a number of projects. We have great partners such as Jesta, in which we have that as our official system, POS system. The other thing is that we have a number of other initiatives that we are focused in on. But it's really coming down to, and I'm hearing a constant theme, and it's around the lines of foundational elements, right? If your house, if you have a fantastic house, but you have no great foundation for it to stand on, your house is probably going to fall apart. So that's why I'm grateful to have the support of the board, our CEO, and my Chief Growth Officer, Bill Jordan, as support. The other thing is along the lines of just making sure that you continue to look back while looking forward. It's important, again, to have that balanced scorecard, have a great talent. I am fortunate to have a great talent that consists of not only my FTEs, contractors, but vendors. You don't go at this alone. You have to go about this collectively and creatively together. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ervan. So just to quickly touch on a couple of bullets, balanced scorecard. It's people always, right? It's people. Know your people, inspire them, get them to believe in the purpose, consolidate your product portfolio, even expand, and then ultimately the customer. It's always the customer, she's the king or the queen or all of it. So those are great points. Moving along, now we know, as kind of Ervan alluded to, they used this disruption as an inflection point, reflection, balanced scorecard, and optimizing everything around that. So Steve, to you, what underlying opportunities your business uncovered from those challenges? And in fact, you being head of that IT evangelist at Harry Rosen for over 2 decades, have you leveraged any technologies to transform those opportunities into growth? And if you were to single out or pick some of your most instrumental, let's say, foundational technology adoption that you can think out loud for us, please.
Thank you, Arvin, and thank you for inviting me as well. So I'm very excited to be here. In terms of the Harry Rosen story, I think I'll kind of share it in terms of kind of like, what have we done in the past through the pandemic? What are we doing this year? What are we doing in the next couple of years? So just to provide some perspective, we embarked on a very aggressive digital transformation strategy back in 2018. So we had a pretty good head start on things. There were two big moves that we made as part of that. The first big move that we made was to re-platform our online site. So we're on a monolithic, very large online system, and we transitioned off of that, did sort of a mock first approach, headless commerce, and we launched that system in August of 2020. So just after things got bad. The other big move that we made was we developed a very highly customized application, digital application for our clothing advisors. So we developed a clienteling application. Harry Rosen has been doing clienteling for probably 30 years electronically, so we've got a lot of deep roots there, but we developed a very specific application for these clothing advisors that enabled them to service and support their customers remotely. So on the online front, I think in 2018, from our 15 sort of brick and mortar Harry Rosen stores, the online store ranked at number 13. In 2019, as we started to make changes, it rose to number 5. And then in 2020 and 21, it rose to number 1. Now, Canada got hit very severely with restrictions, so a lot of customers didn't have a lot of other opportunities. So, that was supporting why we were number 1. But the big test for us was in 22. So in 22, all of our stores were open, and our online channel continued to maintain that number 1 ranking, which was fantastic, and continues to grow much rapidly than our in-store business. So that proved the technology investments that we made were being paid off. On our clienteling app, what we were trying to do there is, trying as much as we can to mimic that in-store experience, right? How do we transition that to remote, or how do we transition that to online? And one of the things that we developed, and one of the key things, is what we call laydowns. So when you're engaging with one of our clothing advisors, they really act as personal shoppers in our stores. It's a very high level of service. And we're trying to mimic that remotely, right? So if you come into a Harry Rosen store and I'm looking for some type of an outfit for some type of an event, our associates will do what we call laydowns. So they'll show the advisor kind of complete looks or outfits, and then guide them in terms of helping with their style and their selection. So the app was really to mimic that we can take these looks or outfits, send it to our clients. The client can push a button and buy the look, buy everything from head to toe, or they could pick items off of it again, push a button, it drops it into the cart, and they can purchase it. So one of the big things there is our clothing advisors, where our stores were shut down, they could continue to engage with their customers during that shutdown, right? So it not only helped with the morale of our associates and keeping them, but it also prolonged these important relationships. Shorter term, things that we've done, we put all of our systems in the cloud, we put in a new WMS system. We've invested very heavily in sort of real-time inventory. Inventory accuracy is something that's very important to us. We have a very broad assortment, but very narrow. So being able to sell to that last item and not disappoint a customer that somebody's grabbed it out underneath them, whether they've done it through Omni or online. So we focused on that. We've been focusing on really like what investments have we made online, and how do we leverage those investments in store. So things like appointment making. So they can go online and make an appointment. Where we're really trying to take that in store next is like, how do you select the right clothing advisor to help you? How do you prepare for that appointment and have those things available and make it, again, very seamless, right? So we can reserve those items, the person can come in, pick up, and make it easy. We're looking at things like our order management system. How do we improve that to take velocity into account? We're looking at things like our promotion engine. We've got a very strong promotion engine online. How do we take that and enable that in store? So we're looking at connecting our POS systems to our online system, whether it's an event that we're trying to bonus them for, whether it's a referral or an appointment or something else that's non-sale, but basically doing that very granular, personalized offers in store in real time, connecting the two systems together. So, yeah, we've done.
There's a lot to
talked for a long
unpack.
time, so.
There's tons of things to unpack. Rest assured, the session is getting recorded. Now, a few things that Steve Jackson kind of touched upon over building on what Ervan mentioned. They were fortunate, I call it visionary, quite frankly, that just about when 2019, 2020 happened, the new digital platform goes online. Talk about the timing. And on top of that, they doubled down in having this truly blending of e-com and in-store, complete frictionless shopping experience. I mean, I don't shop at Harry Rosen as much as I would like to, but I mean, what he speaks to is that same personalization. In fact, if you're going online, you can actually talk to a real advisor in a store, whichever store you shop at. And then when you come into store, you're able to continue your complete digital wardrobe build out and have it delivered to you, fitted for you, however, wherever you want. This we're talking about personalization, customer-centric business vision. Bravo to that, Steve. And of course, this shows that whatever as the wind of transition to digital was already picking up speed, now with the newer generation of customer shoppers they're able to attract during pandemic as they're coming out, they're going to continue to stay because they're not slowing down, they're in fact accelerating. Real-time visibility, real-time order tracking, real-time delivery of goods. So those are the things that I say absolutely food for thought for everybody in the audience. But now we also know that some of you who track as much as we don't want to, a little bit of what Mr. Powell says as a Fed chairman and everything else that goes around, economy is slowing down. It's not a question of when. It's not a question of if, it's actually a question of how deep or how wide the recession is going to be. We know that customer is stretched, generally speaking, but at the same time, the cost, the labor costs are not slowing down at all. They're still upticking. Translation of this is that customer is stretched, costs are still going up. We have these still businesses, every business here in the audience, they're focused on profitability. So the question then becomes is, David, with Careismatic brand, what moves, what measures have you been taking to make sure that as customer is changing their habits and they're trying to sort of shift their expectations even, so what are the moves or choices your business have done and continue to make as you navigate this, David, please?
Thanks, Arvind. Thanks, Arvind. I think we can break down the moves in two ways. One is we're pursuing automation, and the other is getting data to the right people to make some of these key decisions. So the example of automation, we've decided to invest, and I think the labor challenges are not going away. It's not just a temporary labor challenge that's going to resolve itself in the next 2 or 3 years. We're investing 8 figures in a 1 million square foot warehouse that's going to be highly automated to make sure that we can get enough of the right employees. It's not only a cost issue, it is also hiring the right folks to fill those roles. The data side, we've spent a lot of time building a data warehouse, using analytics to get the information to the right folks. So one example, what we're doing with that is going back, we are over inventoried. So we grew by acquisition with all those brands. We are using that data to rationalize our SKUs, as well as recommend when we're rationalizing those SKUs to our customers, hey, we're discontinuing this. This may be a good substitute. So it's really getting the data and really pursuing automation through technology.
Great. So ultimately, data is the currency. David, to just kind of summarize what you just mentioned, hey, your organization is trying to get more out of what you already invested in, right? Automation, and then ultimately making sure the data is the power, gives you where opportunity is, and how to make sure you deliver more value from the same inventory, same associates by investing in automation. That's fantastic. Now, as we look into the future, we know that it's anything but certain. No matter what anybody says, nobody has really a crystal ball. However, if there was a crystal ball to our guest, from your vantage point, you have seen through many similar, once in a generational, not necessarily as deep disruption, but the fact that you have not only survived but thrived. So next question that audience would like to hear is, as you look into future, into a crystal ball, Ervan, what are the major forces you reckon that retail industry, fashion, branded goods are facing, and what choices you think you all will be looking into as you navigate that into future?
Thank you, Arvind. I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize that today is Dr. Martin Luther King's the holiday. And I think it's really, really important that it's about service to others. What are you doing for others? And as a company and as an organization, I'm really, really proud of us thinking about the future. We've invested over $2 million into black footwear designers. Consumer-wise, 65% of tennis shoes is consumed by the African American population. However, you might be surprised to find out that there's only 5% of them are designers. We as a company and as an organization believe that that is not the right trajectory for the future, and we need to do something about that and change that. So that's why we invested $2 million in partnership with Dr. Dwayne Edwards with regards to Pensole. It's Pensole Lewis Business, historically black university in Detroit area that has been reopened. It's the first one ever that's been reopened, and it is focused in on trills, skills, traits. And we are an official vendor. We will be carrying a brand called Not Yet Known, where those designers can actually sell their products, sell their shoes at dsw.com. What greater mission, what greater focus is to give back to others, right? Much is given, much is required. The other thing is that, from a technology perspective, it's all about the data. Data is king. It's like cash is king. Data is king. And so we've taken a really myopic viewpoint to build a data and analytics data center of excellence that many of our business partners are going to be able to use from a self-service perspective. We are replacing our ERP system. We are also upgrading our OMS system. So there are a lot of things that we're investing in, but I think it's all about that balanced scorecard. You'll keep hearing me say that, balanced scorecard. It's all about taking a look at everything from start to finish.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I want to applaud you for you and your organization's vision that sometimes we don't think and reflect that, hey, giving it back, even though there's a lot of, we know that there's an ESG, sort of initiative pushed by those big bankers out there. Many years later, it hasn't had that much of a traction, if you will. But things like this, putting money where the mouth is, and trying to drive that further inclusion and expansion into the future to have more diversity and everything is worth applauding. But then other things that for sure, that kind of like you alluded to, Ervan, is one thing is certain, regardless of economy, data is absolutely bound to explode. There is no doubt about that. Whether it is social commerce, whether it is social media, whether it is everything else in between, and ultimately the supply chain disruption with what we are calling is nearshoring, those challenges are not going to go anywhere. Those reflections, some of that is reset. So some of the key takeaways I take from hearing from our guests here today is, we need to embrace the disruption. We need to celebrate and almost be prepared for it. It's not something that we can avoid, especially with the business that we are in, where the competition as intense as it's going to only get. Agility and innovation. Those are the two words. It's no longer purviews of, let's just go into a boardroom and figure out we need to be innovating. No, it's a democratization of innovation and agility of the mindset. That's going to be a key factor of growth. David and Stephen spoke to that customer, consumer, and the data. Blending it together. Ultimately, its idea is that we, balance scorecard. So how do you all balance those various contrasting pushes and pulls and making sure that you do hard pivot as need be, do the pilot, do the test, fail fast, retry. I see that's the only way. Gentlemen, do you think that summarizes pretty much your view into the future, how your organizations have not only thrived and survived in face of this once-in-a-generation disruption? Steve, what do you say?
Yeah, I would say, like, from Harry Rosen's perspective, when we look towards the future, we made big investments online with online and digital, and we're really switching the kind of laser focus of in the stores. And one of the things that we're looking at is that frictionless, seamless, journey that a customer goes through, and we think really that's a big thing to focus on going forward. So, we want to put the customer in the driver's seat, and we want to be able to enable them to shop how they want to shop online or offline, completely seamlessly. So we have part of that today, but it's still cumbersome, and we see that the trick to this is what we call shared shopping carts. So whether the customer starts the journey online and finishes in store, or starts in store and finishes online, we want to make that a completely seamless process. So that's where our head is kind of at going forward.
David, would you like to add anything on top of that?
Yeah, I think everybody mentioned data, so I won't go on about data, but I think that is key and the customer focus. But I think as technologists, like when we innovate, we need to show value because the dollars are tight for technology investments. But I think that is going to be key, is really proving out that technology is providing value to the enterprise.
Great. Thank you so much for our guests. Melanie, we'll open it up to the audience for questions. So we'll have a couple of more minutes. Go ahead, please.
There's microphones on the left and the right-hand side.
Hi, thank you so much for this wonderful session. I was really curious, I believe it's Stephen, if you could perhaps talk a little bit more about the growth of e-commerce online, but also, the potential to have abandoned shopping carts because sometimes, customers just aren't ready to make those purchases.
Yeah, so, as I said, we kind of feel through the changes that we invested in that we kind of mastered that online experience, right? And as I said, it's really grown to that #1 rank. So, we're really focused on how do we, continue through this sort of architecture to keep upping our game there. We like to describe it that, we feel like we're on the 10-yard line and everybody keeps moving the goalposts, right? So, one of the things that's really important to us as our partners is we have to rely on our partners and their vision to help us keep going in that area. In terms of the in-store stuff with the shareable shopping cart, we see that's where we're going to end up. We don't have a clear vision yet of how we're going to get there. But again, we really want to, support and service our clients in any way, shape, or form that they want, and to any level that they want. So whether they want, whether they're already experienced in the product and they don't need much, assistance, and they're just trying to get through the process quickly, or whether they're really looking for this sort of detailed, styling advice from our advisors. So, hope that answered your question.
So we have time for one or two more questions, if anybody has, before we go ahead, please. Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah, so I would basically say that during the COVID, our stores were shut down, so we had to innovate on the fly, deliver BOPUS, deliver that customer engagement, and remove the friction, right? So still be able to maintain and operate. We've continued to focus in on removing customer friction, so that as they get all the way through a seamless transaction, they remember it's a great customer experience, and they'll come back.
One last question, if anybody has. If not, thank you so much for being in the audience. I hope you all walked away with some reflective points to think and take back to your businesses. Thanks to our, again, guests. Round of applause for them.